In the heart of Manhattan, where skyscrapers pierced the heavens and ambition pulsed through the streets, Freya Jane navigated the chaos with a grace born of resilience. A Black American woman, with eyes that held the wisdom of Harlem's toughest corners, Freya believed in the immutable law of karma. Good deeds reaped blessings, while sins summoned storms. Her faith in this balance guided her every step as the executive assistant to Amiel Benitez, a white American CEO whose charm was as notorious as his scandals. At 32, Freya was the backbone of Benitez Enterprises, a tech conglomerate headquartered in a glass tower overlooking Central Park. While Amiel's name graced magazine covers for his Playboy antics, Freya ensured the company thrived, her meticulous hands steering it through the tempests of his recklessness. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive suite, casting golden hues across Freya's desk, cluttered with neatly organized files and a steaming cup of coffee. Her auburn curls were pinned in a low bun, starkly contrasting her vibrant spirit, and her tailored blazer hugged her frame with quiet authority. She reviewed quarterly reports when the elevator doors hissed open, revealing Amiel Benitez, Amiel's mother, a woman whose elegance was matched only by her fiery resolve. Amelia's silver hair gleamed under the fluorescent lights, but her eyes blazed with fury as she stormed toward Freya's desk. "Freya Jane, where is that scoundrel of a son of mine?" Amelia's voice cut through the hum of the office like a blade, her southern drawl sharpened by indignation. "I swear if he's tangled in another mess, I'll drag him out myself." Freya rose, her calm demeanor a soothing counterpoint to Amelia's tempest. "Mrs. Benitez Amiel is resting in his private office. He was up late working on the merger proposal for the Los Angeles deal." Her tone was measured, a careful dance between truth and diplomacy. She knew Amiel's late night likely involved champagne and starlets at a Soho nightclub, not spreadsheets. Amelia's eyes narrowed, her lips pursing, as if tasting a bitter truth. "Don't shield him, Freya. You know my boy better than anyone. He's probably sleeping off a hangover, isn't he?" She brushed a strand of hair from her face, her diamond bracelet glinting with each furious gesture. Freya's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "He's been burning the candle at both ends, ma'am. But I assure you the company is in good hands." She gestured toward the private office, its frosted glass door etched with Amiel's initials. "Would you like me to escort you?" Amelia nodded, her shoulders stiff with resolve. "Lead the way, darling. I need to speak with that boy before his antics ruin us all." Freya's heels clicked softly against the marble floor as they walked, a rhythm that steadied her thoughts. She had worked for Amiel for 3 years, long enough to decipher the man behind the myth. He was brilliant, with a mind that could unravel complex algorithms as easily as he charmed investors. Yet his personal life was a whirlwind of fleeting romances and tabloid headlines, each scandal chipping away at the company's reputation. Freya, however, saw beyond the headlines. Beneath Amiel's roguish exterior was that of a man capable of more, if only he could be persuaded to care. They reached the private office, a sanctuary Amiel had designed for his midday naps and late-night escapades. Freya punched in the code, his mother's birth date, a detail that always amused her, and the door slid open. Inside the room was dim, the scent of cedar and leather mingling with the faint trace of Amiel's cologne. He lay sprawled across a sleek leather sofa, his tailored suit rumpled, one arm slung over his eyes. His blonde hair, usually impeccably styled, fell in disarray, and a faint snore escaped his lips. Amelia's gasp was sharp, her hand flying to her chest. "Look at him, Freya. The CEO of a multi-million-dollar company is sleeping like a frat boy after a bender. This is what I raised." Freya's eyes softened, though her voice remained firm. "He's sharp when it counts, Mrs. Benitez. He needs guidance." She stepped aside, allowing Amelia to approach her son, whose peaceful slumber seemed oblivious to the storm about to descend. Amelia's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Guidance. What he needs is a wake-up call. Freya, fetch me something to rouse this fool. A book, a ruler, anything. Freya hesitated, her gaze flickering to a decorative brass paperweight on the desk, its weight substantial enough to make a point, but not cause harm. She dismissed the thought of a wooden cane tucked behind a chair, too harsh for the moment. Instead, she handed Amelia the paperweight, its cool surface glinting in the dim light. This should do, ma'am. Amelia's lips curled into a wicked smile. I like your style, Freya. She clutched the paperweight and advanced toward her son, her heels silent on the plush carpet. With a swift motion, she tapped the paperweight against the sofa's armrest, the metallic clang jolting Amiel awake. What? The Amiel bolted upright, his blue eyes wide with confusion. Mom, Freya. What's going on? He rubbed his temple, wincing, as if the room itself were an assault. Amelia loomed over him, the paperweight still in hand. You shameless rogue. Do you know what they're saying in the papers? That you got the daughter of Senator Hargrove pregnant? Is that true? Amiel. Amiel's face paled, though his jaw tightened with defiance. It's not true, Mom. She's lying. I barely know her. He glanced at Freya, seeking an ally, but her expression was unreadable. Her arms crossed in silent judgment. Freya stepped forward, her voice cool but piercing. You slept with her, didn't you? Whether she's pregnant or not, you've been reckless. Amiel, you're 35, old enough to know better. Why can't you stick to one woman instead of chasing every skirt in Manhattan? Amelia nodded, her eyes blazing. Exactly. You're a disgrace to this family, Amiel. Your father was no saint, but he kept his affairs discreet at least. You flaunt your nonsense for the world to see. Amiel's gaze darted between the two women, his usual charm faltering under their combined scrutiny. I'm careful. Okay. I always make it clear I'm not serious. She knew that. And I get tested regularly, no diseases here. He ran a hand through his hair. His voice was tinged with frustration. Besides, last night was just a fling. No way she's pregnant already. Freya's brow arched, her patience wearing thin. That's your defense. It was just last night. You're the CEO, Amiel. Your actions ripple through this company. One wrong move, and we're all cleaning up your mess. Amelia tossed the paperweight onto the sofa, its thud punctuating her words. Freya's right. You're dragging this family's name through the mud. Please meet with that girl's family and sort this out. Freya, schedule it. Freya nodded, her fingers already itching to organize the chaos. Consider it done, Mrs. Benitez. She turned to Amiel, her gaze unwavering. And you don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. Amiel slumped back, his defiance crumbling. Fine, but don't spread this around, Freya. I know you're the office gossip queen. Freya's lips twitched, but she didn't deny it. I don't spread lies, Amiel, only truths. Now get up. You have a board meeting in an hour, and I'm not covering for you again. As Amelia left, her parting words hung heavy. You're lucky to have Freya, Amiel. Without her, this company would have crumbled long ago. Freya escorted her to the elevator, her mind racing. Amelia's hand rested on her arm, a gesture of trust. I'm so disappointed in him, Freya. He's got no respect for women, not even for me, his own mother. Freya's voice softened, her eyes warm with understanding. He respects you, Mrs. Benitez, in his own way. He's just lost in his world, but he's not beyond saving. Her words were a quiet promise, a flicker of hope that Amiel could be more than his reputation. Back at her desk, Freya began rearranging Amiel's schedule, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The office buzzed around her, but her thoughts lingered on Amiel. He was a puzzle, brilliant, yet flawed, charming, yet reckless. She saw the potential in him buried beneath layers of arrogance and indulgence. But could he change? And more importantly, could she trust him if he did? As the day unfolded, whispers of Amiel's latest scandal reached the office. Freya fielded calls from reporters, her voice firm as she deflected their questions. She glanced at Amiel's office where he was preparing for the board meeting, his tie askew and expression troubled. She saw a crack in his armor for the first time, a flicker of vulnerability that made her heart ache. The meeting with Senator Hargrove's daughter was a false alarm. The girl admitted to exaggerating the situation for attention, but the damage was done. The board was restless. Investors were wary, and Freya knew the real work was beginning. She wasn't just Amiel's assistant. She was his anchor, his compass in a storm of his own making. And as she watched him stride into the boardroom, his confidence a fragile mask, she made a silent vow she would challenge him, push him, and maybe help him become the man he was meant to be. The Manhattan skyline glittered beyond the windows of Benitez Enterprises, a constellation of ambition and dreams. Freya Jane sat at her desk, her dark eyes scanning a contract with the precision of a hawk. Her auburn curls now loose framed her face like a halo, softening the steel in her gaze. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, she was the silent force behind the company's success, her steady hand guiding it through the turbulence of his scandals. But now, a new challenge loomed, one that tested her professionalism and the boundaries of her heart. Amiel had accepted Freya's dare to abstain from his Playboy ways for a month, a wager born of her frustration and his fleeting remorse. Once, a stage for his charm, the office hummed with a different energy. Amiel arrived early, his suits crisp, his focus sharp. He pored over reports, attended meetings without complaint, and even traded his late-night escapades in Brooklyn's clubs for quiet evenings at his Upper East Side penthouse. Freya monitored his movements through a shared location app, her phone pinging with updates that confirmed his commitment. Yet beneath his newfound discipline, a restless edge simmered. One crisp autumn morning, Freya found Amiel pacing his office. His blonde hair tousled, his blue eyes stormy. Papers were strewn across his desk, a rare sign of disarray. "Freya, we've got a problem," he said, his voice tight. "The board's breathing down my neck about the Los Angeles merger. They think my reputation's scaring off investors." Freya crossed her arms, her expression unyielding. "Can you blame them? Your name's been in the tabloids more than our stock prices. What's the latest?" Amiel tossed a copy of the New York Post onto her desk. The headline screamed, "Tech Tycoon's latest fling threatens multi-million deal." The article speculated about his alleged affair with Senator Hargrove's daughter, despite the rumor being debunked. Freya's jaw tightened as she scanned the page. "This is why I told you to clean up your act, Amiel. Every move you make is a headline." He sank into his chair, rubbing his temples. "I'm trying, Freya. I haven't been to a club in weeks. I'm following your rules. But it's hard." His voice softened, a rare vulnerability creeping in. "I feel like I'm unraveling." Freya's heart stirred, but she kept her tone firm. "You're not unraveling. You're just feeling the weight of your choices. If you want the board's trust, you must prove you're more than a headline. Start with the merger. I've already drafted a strategy to reassure the investors. Review it by noon." Amiel met her gaze, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. "You're always one step ahead, aren't you?" "It's my job," she replied, but her voice held a warmth that betrayed her growing affection. She turned away, focusing on her computer, but the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. As the days passed, Amiel's transformation became evident. He worked late, his office light burning long after the city dimmed. Ever vigilant, Freya noticed the strain in his posture and how his laughter lacked its usual ease. One evening, as she prepared to leave, she found him staring out at the city with a glass of water, instead of his usual whiskey. "You okay?" she asked, lingering by the door. He turned his smile faint, but genuine. "Just thinking. This restraint. It's more complicated than I expected. But I want to prove you wrong, Freya. I'm not just some shallow playboy." Her breath caught at the sincerity in his voice. "I never said you were shallow. I told you to act like it. There's a difference." She stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "You're brilliant, Amiel. You hide it behind all the noise." He chuckled a low, warm sound. "You see right through me, don't you?" "Someone has to," she said, her lips curving into a smile before she turned to leave, her heart racing with a dangerous hope. The tension in the office escalated when a new crisis emerged. An anonymous source leaked emails to the press alleging Amiel had bribed a city official to secure a contract. The board called an emergency meeting, and Freya worked tirelessly with the PR team to craft a response. Amiel, usually unflappable, was visibly shaken. "This is nonsense, Freya," he said, pacing her cubicle. "I didn't bribe anyone. But the timing, it's like someone's out to get me." Freya's fingers paused on her keyboard. "Then we find out who. I've already asked our IT team to trace the leak. In the meantime, you need to face the board and own this. Transparency is your best defense." He stopped pacing, his eyes locking onto hers. "You believe me, don't you?" She held his gaze, her voice steady. "You're capable of better than they think. Please don't prove me wrong." The board meeting was a battlefield. Amiel stood before the directors, his voice calm but resolute as he denied the allegations. Freya sat in the corner taking notes, her presence a quiet anchor when a director questioned Amiel's leadership. She interjected, her tone sharp. "With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, Amiel has overseen a 20% increase in revenue this quarter. His personal life doesn't change the numbers." The room fell silent, and Amiel's eyes flickered with surprise and gratitude. The board agreed to an investigation, but the damage lingered. As they left the meeting, Amiel caught Freya's arm. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. "I did," she replied. "This company needs you, but you need to fight for it." That night, Freya stayed late combing through emails for clues about the leak. Amiel joined her, his sleeves rolled up, his tie discarded. They worked in companionable silence, the city's glow casting shadows across the office. When their hands brushed, while reaching for the same file, Freya pulled back, her cheeks warm. "Focus, Amiel," she said, but her voice trembled. He grinned, a spark of his old charm returning. "I am focused. Just not on the emails." She rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. The moment passed, leaving a lingering warmth, a promise of something unspoken. The investigation revealed the leak came from a disgruntled former employee, and Freya's quick action quelled the scandal. But the experience left Amiel shaken, his confidence frayed. As they reviewed the merger proposal one evening, he confided in her. "I've never had to fight like this before. It's always been easy," charm smile done. "But now you're seeing what it takes to be a leader," Freya said, her voice gentle but firm. "You're more than your charm, Amiel. You need to believe it." He looked at her, his eyes searching. "You make me want to be better, Freya." "Why is that?" Her heart skipped, but she deflected with a laugh. "Because I'm the only one who calls you out on your nonsense." Amiel's restraint began to fray as the month drew to a close. He grew irritable, snapping at colleagues over minor errors. Freya noticed the tension in his jaw, and his hands clenched when he thought no one was watching. One afternoon, he exploded at Mr. Johnson, a veteran accountant, threatening to fire him over a misplaced decimal. Freya intervened, pulling Amiel into his office. "What's wrong with you?" she demanded, her voice low but fierce. "Mr. Johnson's been here for 20 years. You don't get to treat him like that. Amiel ran a hand through his hair, his frustration palpable. I'm sorry. I feel trapped, Freya. This whole good boy act, it's killing me. She softened, stepping closer. It's not an act. It's you trying to be the man you could be. But you can't take it out on everyone else. Apologize to Mr. Johnson. Tomorrow. He nodded, his shoulders slumping. You're right. I'll fix it. The next day, Amiel apologized publicly, his sincerity disarming the staff. Freya watched from her desk, a quiet pride swelling in her chest. He was trying, really trying. But as their eyes met across the room, she saw something new in his gaze, a longing that mirrored her own buried beneath layers of duty and fear. The final days of the challenge brought a new test. At a gala in Tribeca, surrounded by models and moguls, Amiel stayed by Freya's side, his attention fixed on her. When a starlet approached her, smile suggestive, he politely declined his hand brushing Freya's arm. He said, I'm here with someone, his voice low but firm. Freya's heart raced, but she kept her composure. You're doing well, she said, her tone teasing but warm. 3 weeks down, 1 to go. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. I'm not doing this for the challenge anymore, Freya. I'm doing it for you. Her breath hitched, and momentarily the world narrowed to the space between them. She wanted to believe him, to trust the man emerging from the shadow of his past. But Harlem had taught her to guard her heart, and she wasn't ready to let it go. As they left the gala, the city lights painting their path, Freya felt the weight of her resistance. Amiel was changing, but could she change too? Could she risk loving a man whose past was a cautionary tale? The question lingered, a quiet storm brewing in her heart. As they stepped into the night, their futures uncertain but intertwined. The autumn air in Manhattan carried a crisp promise of change, much like the transformation unfolding within the glass walls of Benitez Enterprises. With her auburn curls cascading over her shoulders, Freya Jane moved through the office with the quiet authority of a woman who had learned to command chaos. Her dark eyes sharp as Harlem's starlit nights scanned emails and schedules, her fingers dancing across the keyboard with a rhythm born of discipline. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, she was the unseen force that kept the company's pulse steady. Still now, she was also the keeper of his fragile vow, a month without the indulgences that had defined his life as Manhattan's most infamous playboy. Amiel had surprised everyone, including himself, with his blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, by adhering to Freya's challenge. Gone were the late-night escapades in Brooklyn's neon-lit clubs, replaced by early mornings in the office, and evenings spent reviewing contracts in his Upper East Side penthouse. Freya tracked his movements through a shared location app, her phone a silent witness to his newfound restraint. But beneath his polished exterior, a restless current simmered, threatening to unravel the progress he had made. One October morning, as golden leaves swirled outside the office windows, Freya noticed a shift in Amiel's demeanor. He was pacing the conference room. His tie loosened, his jaw tight with an agitation that hadn't surfaced since the scandal with Senator Hargrove's daughter. The boardroom was empty, save for the two of them preparing for a critical presentation to secure a partnership with a Los Angeles tech firm. Freya set down a stack of printed slides, her gaze steady. You're fidgeting like a caged lion, Amiel. What's wrong? He stopped, running a hand through his hair. It's this restraint. It's like I'm suffocating, Freya. I'm doing everything you asked. No clubs, no women, no trouble. But it's not enough. The board's still watching me like I'm a liability. Freya crossed her arms, her voice a blend of steel and warmth. You're not a liability. You're the CEO who doubled our market share last quarter. But you can't expect trust to come overnight. You've spent years building a reputation good and evil. It takes time to rewrite the story. Amiel's eyes met hers, a storm of frustration and longing swirling within them. You make it sound so simple. But every day, I feel like I'm fighting myself. And for what? To prove I'm not the man everyone thinks I am. She stepped closer, her presence a quiet anchor. You're doing it to prove it to yourself, Amiel. And maybe to me. Her words hung between them soft, but waited a challenge wrapped in a promise. He exhaled a faint smile tugging at his lips. You're relentless, Freya Jane. You know that it's why you keep me around. She replied, her tone teasing, but her eyes betraying a flicker of something deeper. Something she wasn't ready to name. The presentation went smoothly with Amiel's charisma shining as he outlined the merger's potential. Freya watched from the sidelines, her pride tempered by a growing unease. His irritability was spreading, seeping into his interactions with the staff. Later that day, she overheard him snap at Mr. Johnson, the veteran accountant, over a minor error in a financial report. Fix it or find another job. Amiel barked, his voice echoing through the open plan office. Freya's heart sank. She marched into his office, closing the door with a deliberate click. Amiel, what was that? Mr. Johnson's been here longer than both of us. You can't treat him like that. He slumped into his chair, his face a mask of regret. I know. I didn't mean it. I'm just on edge. This whole thing trying to be someone I'm not, it's driving me up the wall. Freya said you're not trying to be someone else. Her voice firm but gentle. You're trying to be the best version of yourself, but you don't get to take it out on everyone else. Apologize. Now. Amiel met her gaze, his defiance melting under her resolve. You're right. I'll talk to him. He stood pausing at the door. You know, Freya, you're the only one who doesn't let me get away with anything. She smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. Someone has to keep you in line. The apology was public, delivered with a sincerity that surprised the staff. Mr. Johnson accepted it with a nod, and the office buzzed with whispers of Amiel's changing ways. Freya watched from her desk, her heart caught between pride and caution. Amiel was trying, but the weight of his past lingered, a shadow, threatening to eclipse his efforts. As the weeks progressed, a new crisis emerged. A rival company, Nexus Tech, launched a smear campaign, leaking doctored photos of Amiel at a nightclub to suggest he'd broken his vow. The images spread across social media, igniting a firestorm of speculation. Freya's phone buzzed with X alerts, each posting a dagger to the company's reputation. She called an emergency meeting with the PR team, her voice steady as she outlined a counter-strategy. We issued a statement, denying the photo's authenticity, and released Amiel's location data to prove he was home. Transparency is our weapon. Standing at the back of the room, Amiel watched her with a mix of awe and frustration. You're fighting my battles for me, Freya. I don't deserve it. She turned to him, her eyes fierce. This isn't just about you. It's about the company, the people who depend on you. Step up, Amiel, or step aside. Her words stung, but they ignited something within him. He joined her at the forefront, addressing the team with a resolve she hadn't seen before. I'm done letting my past define me. Let's fight this together. The counter-campaign was successful with forensic analysis, proving the photos were manipulated. The public's attention shifted to Nexus Tech's dirty tactics, and Benitez Enterprises emerged stronger. But the victory came at a cost. Amiel's strain was palpable. His smiles forced his energy drained. Freya noticed the dark circles under his eyes, and his hands trembled when he thought no one was watching. One evening, as the office emptied and the city lights painted the skyline, Freya found Amiel alone in the conference room, staring at a photo of his parents on his phone. They're so different now, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Mom's happy with James in her little Upper West Side apartment. Dad's alone in Chicago fighting his demons. I don't want to end up like him, Freya. Her heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. She sat beside him, her voice soft. You won't. You're already choosing a different path. But it's not easy, and it's not supposed to be. Keep going. He turned to her, his eyes searching hers. Why do you believe in me? After everything I've done? She hesitated, her breath catching. Because I see the man you could be, and he's worth fighting for. The moment stretched, charged with unspoken possibilities. Amiel reached for her hand, but she pulled back, her heart racing. Not yet, she said, her voice trembling. You're still proving yourself. He nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. I'll keep trying, Freya, for you. As she left the office that night, the city's pulse seemed to echo her own, a rhythm of hope, fear, restraint, and longing. Amiel was changing, but Freya's heart was a battleground torn between the man he was becoming and the scars of her past. Harlem had taught her to guard her soul, but Amiel's sincerity was a tide pulling her closer to a shore she wasn't sure she could reach. The Manhattan skyline shimmered under a November moon, its lights a tapestry of dreams and desires. Freya Jane stood at her desk in Benitez Enterprises, her auburn curls catching the glow of her computer screen. Her dark eyes, honed by years of navigating Harlem's challenges, held a quiet storm of emotions. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, she had become his compass, guiding him through the wreckage of his past. But now, as his transformation deepened, Freya grappled with a new challenge, the pull of her heart toward a man she had sworn to keep at arm's length. Amiel's month-long vow of restraint had stretched into a second, his life starkly contrasting to the Playboy persona that once defined him. He traded late-night parties for strategy sessions, and his Upper East Side penthouse was now a haven of work rather than revelry. Freya monitored his commitment through their shared location app, and her phone was a silent testament to his discipline. Yet beneath his polished suits and newfound focus, she sensed a growing tension, a longing that mirrored her own buried beneath layers of caution. One evening, as the office quieted and the city hummed below, Freya found Amiel in his private office reviewing a contract. His blonde hair was slightly disheveled, his blue eyes heavy with fatigue. "You're still here," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "The merger's not until next week." "Go home, Amiel." He looked up, a wry smile playing on his lips, and tried to get rid of me. "I thought you liked my company." She laughed, a soft sound that warmed the room. "I like it when you're not falling asleep on your desk. You're pushing too hard." He leaned back, his gaze softening. "Maybe I'm trying to impress someone." Her heart skipped, but she kept her tone light. "The board, or the investors in Los Angeles?" "You," he said, his voice a low caress. "Always you." Freya's breath caught her resolve wavering. She turned away, busying herself with straightening a stack of papers. "Keep your eyes on the prize, Amiel. The merger's what matters." But the air between them crackled, charged with unspoken truths. Amiel's sincerity was a tide pulling her closer to a shore she wasn't ready to reach. Her past in Harlem loomed immense, where trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. She remembered the foster homes, the whispered plans to marry her off for profit, the weight of being a burden. Those memories had forged her into a woman who guarded her heart fiercely. And Amiel, with his history of fleeting romances, was a risk she couldn't take lightly. The next day, a new challenge arose. A high-profile Tribeca gala, hosted by a tech mogul, demanded their presence. Freya arrived in a sleek black dress, her curls swept into an elegant updo, her presence commanding yet understated. Amiel, in a tailored tuxedo, was a vision of charm, but his eyes rarely left her. As they mingled with investors and celebrities, Freya noticed a change. He deflected flirtations easily, his attention fixed on her. At the bar, a model approached her, smile, suggestive. "Amiel, it's been too long. Join me for a drink." He glanced at Freya, then back at the model. He said, "I'm here with someone," his hand brushing Freya's arm another time. The model's smile faltered, and Freya's heart raced. As they moved to a quiet corner, she teased, "You're getting good at this restraint thing." He leaned closer, his voice a whisper. "It's not a restraint if it's for the right person." Her cheeks warmed, but before she could respond, a crisis interrupted. Her phone buzzed with an alert from X. A rival executive had leaked a recording of Amiel from years ago, boasting about his conquests. The clip, though old, reignited doubts about his change. Freya's heart sank as she showed him the post. "This isn't good, Amiel. The investors will see this before the merger." His face darkened, but he nodded. "I'll handle it. But I need you with me, Freya. You're the only one I trust." They worked through the night crafting a response with the PR team. Amiel recorded a video statement, his voice steady as he acknowledged his past mistakes and outlined his commitment to change. Freya edited the script, her suggestions sharpening his words. The response was mixed. When the video went live, some praised his honesty. Others remained skeptical. But Freya saw the effort in his eyes, the weight of his resolve. As the gala's aftermath faded, a quieter moment emerged. Amiel invited Freya to dinner at a small Italian restaurant in the village, far from his usual haunts. The candlelit table felt intimate, the air heavy with possibility. He said, "I'm not the man I was," his voice earnest. "I know I've got a long way to go, but I'm trying, Freya. For the company. For you." She sipped her wine, her eyes meeting his. "I see it, Amiel. But trust is earned, not given. You're on the right path, but don't expect me to fall at your feet." He laughed, a sound that warmed her heart. "I wouldn't want you any other way." The dinner marked a shift. Amiel began leaving small gestures, a coffee on her desk, a note praising her work, a single rose tucked into her planner. Each act chipped away at Freya's defenses, but her past held her back. She remembered the foster mother who saw her as a commodity, the men who offered empty promises. Amiel was different, but could she risk her heart on a man whose past was a gallery of broken hearts? The merger negotiations intensified, and Freya became Amiel's shadow, her expertise guiding him through tense meetings. One night, as they reviewed documents in his office, he paused, his gaze lingering on her. "You're incredible, Freya. I don't know how you do it. Keep this place running. Keep me in line." She smiled, her heart fluttering. "It's called multitasking. Try it sometime." He chuckled, but his eyes held a seriousness that made her pause. "I mean it. You're the heart of this company. And maybe more than that." Her breath hitched, but she stood, breaking the moment. "Let's finish this, Amiel. The merger's tomorrow." As she left, her heart pounded with a truth she wasn't ready to face. Amiel was no longer just her boss. He was becoming someone she could love, if only she could trust him. The November winds swept through Manhattan, carrying whispers of change as sharp as the city's skyline. Freya Jane stood at her desk in the glass tower of Benitez Enterprises, her auburn curls catching the pale morning light. Her dark eyes, shaped by Harlem's resilient streets, held a quiet intensity as she sifted through a storm of emails. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, Freya was the linchpin of the company, her steady hand guiding it through the chaos of his tarnished reputation. But now, as Amiel's transformation deepened, a new tempest loomed, threatening to unravel the fragile trust they had built. With his blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, Amiel defied expectations by upholding Freya's challenge for nearly 2 months. The playboy who once ruled Manhattan's nightlife had become a fixture in the office, his evenings spent poring over contracts rather than chasing fleeting pleasures. Freya monitored his commitment through their shared location app. Her phone was a silent testament to his resolve. Yet the weight of his past lingered, and the city's relentless gaze tested his every step. One crisp morning, as the office hummed with the rhythm of deadlines, Freya's phone buzzed with an alert from X. A headline from the Wall Street Journal screamed across her screen. Benitez Enterprises faces scrutiny over CEO's alleged misconduct. The article claimed Amiel had engaged in unethical dealings with a city official to secure a lucrative contract for a new data center in Queens. The accusations, though unproven, reignited doubts about his reformation, casting a shadow over the Los Angeles merger negotiations. Freya's heart sank, but her resolve hardened. She marched into Amiel's office where he stood by the window, his silhouette framed against the city's sprawl. "Have you seen this?" she asked, holding up her phone. He turned, his face pale but defiant. "It's a lie, Freya. I didn't bribe anyone. Someone's trying to sabotage the merger." His voice trembled with frustration, a rare crack in his polished exterior. She crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. "Then we fight it. The board meets in an hour, and the investors are spooked. You must face them. Amiel, no charm, no excuses, just the truth." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I need you there, Freya. You're the only one who can keep me grounded." Her heart stirred at his words, but she kept her tone firm. "I'm always here, but you need to show them you're more than the headlines. Let's get to work." The boardroom was a battlefield, the directors' faces etched with skepticism. Freya sat at the back, her notebook open, her pen poised like a sword. Amiel stood at the head of the table, his voice steady as he addressed the allegations. He admitted, "I've made mistakes in my personal life," his eyes scanning the room. "But I've never compromised this company's integrity. These claims are baseless, and I've already instructed our legal team to investigate." A director. Mr. Thompson leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Your personal life is the problem, Amiel. Investors are pulling back because they don't trust you. Why should we?" Freya's pen paused, her heart racing. She rose, her voice cutting through the tension. "With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, Amiel's leadership has driven a 25% increase in our stock value this year. The data center contract was won through competitive bidding. We have documentation to prove it. The real question is why we're letting rumors derail our focus." The room fell silent, Amiel's eyes flickering with gratitude. The board agreed to an independent audit, but the pressure lingered. Amiel caught Freya's arm as the meeting ended, his touch warm but fleeting. "You saved me in there," he said softly. "You saved yourself," she replied, her voice tinged with pride. "But we're not out of the woods yet." The investigation revealed the accusations stemmed from a rival Nexus Tech who had planted the story to undermine Benitez Enterprises. Freya worked tirelessly with the PR team, crafting a statement that exposed Nexus Tech's tactics and reaffirmed Amiel's commitment to transparency. The response quelled the storm, but the toll on Amiel was evident. His smiles were forced, his energy drained, and Freya noticed his hands trembled when he thought no one was watching. One evening, as the office emptied and the city glowed below, Freya found Amiel in the conference room, staring at a photo of his parents. "This is all my fault," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've spent years being reckless, and now the company's paying for it." Freya sat beside him, her voice gentle. "You're not that man anymore, Amiel. You're fighting for something bigger now. Don't give up." He turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "Why do you keep believing in me, after everything?" Her heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. "Because I see you trying, and that's worth more than you know." The moment stretched, charged with unspoken longing. Amiel reached for her hand, but she pulled back, her heart racing. "We have work to do," she said, her voice trembling. "The merger's next week, and we need to be ready." As she left, the city's pulse echoed her own, a rhythm of hope, fear, restraint, and desire. Amiel was changing, but Freya's heart was a fortress built from the scars of her Harlem past. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself? The December chill settled over Manhattan, wrapping the city in a quiet anticipation that mirrored the tension in Freya Jane's heart. At Benitez Enterprises, her desk was a sanctuary of order, her auburn curls pinned neatly as she navigated a sea of emails and deadlines. Her dark eyes, forged in the crucible of Harlem's trials, held a depth that saw through facades, especially those of Amiel Benitez, the white American CEO, whose transformation had become her challenge and quiet obsession. As his executive assistant, Freya was the company's heartbeat, but now she was also the keeper of Amiel's fragile redemption, a journey that tested the boundaries of her guarded soul. Amiel's commitment to Freya's challenge had stretched into its third month, his life a stark contrast to the Playboy persona that once lit up Manhattan's tabloids. His Upper East Side penthouse, once a stage for late-night revelry, was now a haven of focus, its walls lined with books and contracts rather than champagne flutes. Freya tracked his movements through their shared location app, and her phone silently witnessed his discipline. But the weight of his past and the recent scandal, a false accusation of bribery orchestrated by Nexus Tech, had left him frayed, his resolve tested by the city's unrelenting scrutiny. One snowy evening, as the office lights dimmed, Freya received a call from Amiel. His voice was strained, a tremor beneath his usual confidence. "Freya, I need to go to Chicago. My dad's having heart surgery. It's serious." Her heart sank, but her voice remained steady. "When do you leave tomorrow morning?" he said. I'd like you to know. You're the first person I called." The admission stirred something in her, a warmth she wasn't ready to name. "I'll handle things here," she said. "Be with your dad. And Amiel, call me if you need me." He chuckled, a sound both weary and grateful. "You're always saving me, Freya Jane." As Amiel boarded a flight to Chicago, Freya took charge of the office, her efficiency a shield against the worry gnawing at her heart. She remembered her past in Harlem, the foster homes where love was a transaction, the nights she spent dreaming of a life where she could stand tall. Amiel's vulnerability reminded her of those dreams, but trust was fragile, and she wasn't sure she could give it to a man whose past was a gallery of broken promises. In Chicago, Amiel navigated the sterile halls of Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where his father Daniel lay, waiting for a heart transplant. Their relationship had always been strained. Daniel, a former playboy himself, had left Amiel's mother, Amelia, for a string of younger women, leaving Amiel to grow up in the shadow of his father's mistakes. As Daniel faced mortality, Amiel found himself confronting their shared history. Late one night, he called Freya via video chat, his face illuminated by the dim glow of his phone. "Dad's scared," he said, his voice raw. "He keeps talking about Mom and how he messed things up. I don't want to be like him, Freya. I don't want to end up alone." Freya's heart ached, her fingers tightening around her phone. "You're not him, Amiel. You're making different choices. You're here for him now that matters." He looked at her, his eyes searching hers across the miles. "I miss you. I didn't realize how much I lean on you until I arrived." Her breath caught, but she kept her tone light. "You'll survive, Benitez. Just focus on your dad, and send me a picture of Chicago's skyline. I need proof you're not sneaking off to a club." He laughed, a sound that warmed her despite the distance. "Deal. But Freya, I love you." The words hung in the air, a confession that stole her breath. She froze, her heart racing, but before she could respond, he ended the call, leaving her staring at a blank screen. The words echoed in her mind, a tide pulling her toward a shore she wasn't sure she could reach. Over the following weeks, Amiel's calls became a lifeline. He shared stories of his father's recovery, the quiet moments when Daniel spoke of regret and love lost. Freya listened, her voice, a steady anchor, encouraging Amiel to rebuild the bond he had lost. She sent him care packages, coffee from her favorite Harlem roaster, a scarf to ward off Chicago's chill. Each gesture, a quiet admission of her care. Back in New York, Freya faced her own challenges. The Los Angeles merger was faltering, with investors wary after the bribery scandal. She worked late, rallying the team to revise proposals and reassure partners. One night, as she reviewed documents in Amiel's office, she found a note tucked into her planner. "You're my compass, Freya. A." Her heart fluttered, but the weight of her past held her back. Could she love a man whose history was so entwined with betrayal? As Daniel's surgery approached, Amiel's calls grew more frequent, his voice blending hope and fear. "Dad's surgery is tomorrow," he said one night, his face pale on her screen. "I'm terrified, Freya. What if he doesn't make it?" She leaned closer to her phone, her voice soft but firm. "You're there for him. That's what matters. And you're not alone, Amiel. I'm here." He smiled, a flicker of light in his eyes. "I don't deserve you, Freya Jane. You're getting there," she said, her voice teasing but warm. "Now get some sleep. And call me after the surgery." The surgery was successful, and Amiel's relief was palpable in his next call. He shared stories of his father's recovery, the way Daniel's laughter echoed in the hospital room. Freya listened, her heart swelling with pride. Amiel was changing, not just for her, but for himself, and the realization stirred a longing she could no longer ignore. As Amiel prepared to return to New York, Freya faced a new challenge. A rival executive leaked internal emails to the press, suggesting Benitez Enterprises had ignored safety protocols in the Queens data center project. The scandal threatened to derail the merger, and Freya worked tirelessly to counter it, her resolve fueled by her belief in Amiel's transformation. She organized a press conference where Amiel would address the allegations head-on, a move that could make or break his leadership. The night before his return, Amiel called her from Chicago, his voice soft but earnest. "I'm coming home, Freya. And when I do, I want to be the man you believe I can be." Her heart raced, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then, come home, Amiel. I'll be waiting." As she hung up, the city's lights seemed to pulse with possibility, a rhythm that matched the beat of her heart. Freya Jane, the woman who had built walls around her soul, felt them crumbling. Amiel was no longer just her boss. He was the man who saw her, needed her, and loved her. But as she stared out at the Manhattan skyline, she wondered, could she let herself love him back? The new year dawned over Manhattan, its skyline a canvas of possibility painted in frost and light. Freya Jane moved through Benitez Enterprises with a grace born of resilience, her auburn curls catching the glow of the office's sleek lights. Her dark eyes, tempered by Harlem's trials, held a quiet fire, a blend of determination and unspoken longing. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, she was the company's anchor. Still, as Amiel prepared to return from Chicago, she was also the keeper of a heart teetering on the edge of trust. His love, confessed across the miles, was a flame she craved and feared. Amiel's absence had stretched into weeks, and his father's recovery demanded his presence. Freya had held the fort, navigating the fallout from the Queen's data center scandal with unwavering resolve. She had organized a press conference presenting evidence that cleared Benitez enterprises of wrongdoing, but the victory was bittersweet. The board remained wary, and whispers of Amiel's past lingered like smoke. Freya's nights were spent in her Harlem apartment, replaying his words, "I love you." The memory stirred her, but the scars of her past foster homes, broken promises kept her guarded. One January morning, as snow dusted the city, Freya's phone buzzed with a message from Amiel landing at JFK tonight. "Can you meet me?" Her heart leaped, but she typed a measured reply. "I'll be there. Safe travels." The day passed in a blur, her mind torn between work and anticipating his return. She wore a navy coat over a cream sweater, her curls loose, her presence a blend of strength and vulnerability. At JFK, the terminal hummed with reunions, but Freya's eyes found Amiel instantly. He emerged from the crowd, his blonde hair tousled, his blue eyes bright with relief. He dropped his bag and hugged her, his warmth a shock against the winter chill. "I missed you," he whispered, his voice a caress. Her heart raced, but she pulled back her smile, teasing. "You survived Chicago. I'm impressed." He laughed, a sound that warmed her soul. "Barely. But I'm home now, Freya, and I'm not going anywhere." They drove through the city, the lights of Manhattan, a backdrop to their quiet conversation. Amiel spoke of his father's recovery, the fragile bond they had rebuilt. "Dad's stronger now," he said, his voice soft. "He told me to hold on to what matters. I think he meant you." Freya's breath caught, but she kept her tone light. "Don't get ahead of yourself, Benitez. You've got a company to run." But the air between them crackled, charged with possibility. Amiel invited her in for coffee at his Upper East Side penthouse, his eyes searching hers. She hesitated, then followed her heart a drumbeat of hope and fear. The penthouse was warm, its walls lined with books and memories. Amiel's gaze held hers, a silent promise, as they sat by the fireplace. "I meant what I said in Chicago," he said, his voice earnest. "I love you, Freya. My past makes it hard to believe, but I'm trying to be the man you deserve." Her heart ached, but her voice was steady. "I see you trying, Amiel, but love isn't enough. Trust is, and I'm still learning to trust you." He nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'll earn it, however long it takes." The moment stretched, a fragile thread connecting them. Freya's heart wavered, but she stood, breaking the spell. "We've got a big day tomorrow. Get some rest." As she left, the city's pulse echoed her own, a rhythm of longing and restraint. Amiel was home, but the journey to her heart was far from over. The January frost clung to Manhattan's skyline, casting a crystalline sheen over the city's restless heart. Freya Jane stood at her desk in Benitez Enterprises, her auburn curls catching the soft glow of her computer screen. Her dark eyes, honed by Harlem's unyielding streets, shimmered with a blend of resolve and unspoken longing. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, she was the company's steadfast anchor. Still with Amiel back from Chicago, she was also the guardian of a heart teetering on the edge of trust. His return had reignited a spark between them, but the city's scrutiny and the weight of his past threatened to extinguish it. Amiel's transformation had taken root, his Playboy days replaced by a disciplined focus that surprised even the most skeptical board members. His Upper East Side penthouse, once a stage for fleeting romances, was now a haven of strategy sessions and quiet evenings. Freya monitored his commitment through their shared location app. Her phone was a silent testament to his resolve, but the board's ultimatum loomed large: secure the Los Angeles merger or face resignation. The pressure was a crucible testing Amiel's leadership. and the fragile bond growing between them. One morning, as snowflakes danced outside the office windows, Freya found a note on her desk, a single line in Amiel's elegant scrawl. "You're my reason to fight. A." Her heart fluttered, but she tucked the note away, her focus on the day's challenges. The merger negotiations were faltering, with investors wary after a new scandal. A tabloid had published grainy photos of Amiel at a Chicago bar, implying he'd slipped back into old habits. Freya knew the images were from years ago, but the damage was done. She marched into Amiel's office, her navy coat still dusted with snow. "Have you seen the Post?" she asked, tossing the paper onto his desk. "They're dragging your name through the mud again." Amiel's blue eyes darkened, his jaw tight. "Those photos are old, Freya. I was at the hospital with Dad that night. You know that." "I know," she said, her voice steady but fierce. "But the investors don't. We need to counter this now, or the merger's dead." He leaned back, running a hand through his blonde hair. "I'm tired of fighting my past, Freya. Every time I take a step forward, it pulls me back." She stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "Then fight harder. You're not that man anymore, Amiel. Prove it." Her words ignited a fire in him. He nodded, his resolve hardening. "Let's do this. Together." They spent the day strategizing, and Freya coordinated with the PR team to release a statement debunking the photos. She dug into the company's archives, finding time-stamped hospital records to corroborate Amiel's alibi. By evening, they had a plan: a public address at a tech conference in Midtown, where Amiel would confront the rumors head-on. Freya coached him, her voice a blend of steel and warmth. "Be honest, but don't grovel. Show them you're a leader, not a victim." The conference was a spectacle, with industry giants and media packed into a glittering ballroom. Freya stood backstage, her heart pounding as Amiel took the stage. His suit was impeccable, his blonde hair catching the spotlight, but his steady, sincere voice held the room. "I've made mistakes," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd. "But I'm not the man in those headlines. Benitez Enterprises is built on innovation and integrity, and I'm committed to proving that every day." The applause was tentative at first, then thunderous. Freya's chest swelled with pride, but her eyes caught a flicker of doubt in Amiel's gaze as he stepped off stage. She met him in the wings, her hand brushing his arm. "You did it," she said softly. He smiled, but it was strained. "Did I? Or are they just humoring me?" She squeezed his arm, her voice firm. "They saw the real you. That's enough for now." The speech turned the tide, with investors renewing their commitment to the merger. But the board remained skeptical, demanding a final presentation in Los Angeles. Freya and Amiel worked late into the night, their desks littered with coffee cups and notes. Their hands brushed as they reviewed slides, a spark ignited in the quiet office. Freya pulled back, her heart racing. But Amiel's gaze held her, a silent plea. "Freya," he said, his voice low, "I know I don't deserve you, but I'm trying to be the man who does." Her breath caught, her Harlem instincts warring with her heart. "You're getting there," she said, her voice trembling. "But I need time, Amiel." He nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'll wait as long as it takes." The Los Angeles trip was a whirlwind. Freya and Amiel arrived at a sleek downtown office where investors grilled them on every detail. Freya's expertise shone, her calm authority balancing Amiel's charisma. When a skeptical investor questioned Amiel's reliability, Freya interjected, her voice sharp. "Mr. Benitez has overseen a 30% growth in revenue this year. His past doesn't change the numbers." The room fell silent, and Amiel's eyes flickered with gratitude. The successful presentation secured the merger, but the victory was bittersweet. Back at their hotel, Amiel found Freya on the balcony, the city lights sprawling below. "We did it," he said, his voice soft. "Because of you, She turned her curls, catching the breeze. We did it together. You're proving them wrong, Amiel. He stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers. And you? Am I proving anything to you? Her heart raced, but she smiled, deflecting. Keep going, and we'll see. As they returned to New York, a new challenge emerged. An activist group filed a lawsuit against the Queen's data center, alleging environmental violations. Freya dove into the fray, organizing a community forum to address concerns. Her Harlem roots gave her credibility, her voice resonating with authenticity. Amiel watched from the sidelines, his admiration palpable. You're unstoppable, he said after the forum, his voice warm. She laughed, her eyes sparkling. Someone has to clean up your messes. But the lawsuit distracted from a more profound truth. Freya's heart was softening. Amiel's gestures, a coffee delivered to her desk, a note tucked into her coat, were chipping away at her defenses. One night as they worked late, he left a single rose on her desk, its soft pink petals against the office's stark white. The note read, "For the woman who makes me want to improve. A." Freya pressed the rose to her chest, her heart a battlefield of hope and fear. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself to love without losing who she was? The February air in Manhattan promised renewal as if the city held its breath for spring. Freya Jane moved through Benitez Enterprises with a grace that belied the storm within her heart. Her auburn curls framed her face, her dark eyes a legacy of Harlem's resilience, shimmering with a quiet hope. As Amiel Benitez's executive assistant, she was the company's cornerstone. Still with the Los Angeles merger secured, and Amiel's transformation undeniable, she was also the keeper of a love she could no longer deny. His gestures and sincerity had worn down the walls she had built, but the final step, surrendering her heart, remained a leap into the unknown. Amiel's return from Los Angeles had marked a turning point. His blonde hair caught the office lights, his blue eyes holding a new and familiar warmth. The board's ultimatum had been met, the merger a triumph, but the Queen's lawsuit lingered, a final test of his leadership. Freya had stood by him, her expertise and resolve anchoring the company through the storm. Their late nights, filled with coffee and shared glances, had woven a tapestry of trust, each moment a thread pulling them closer. One evening, as the office emptied and the city glowed below, Amiel found Freya at her desk, reviewing legal documents. He leaned against the doorframe, his suit jacket draped over his arm. "You're still here," he said, his voice a low caress. "Don't you ever rest?" She smiled, her curls catching the light. "Not when there's a lawsuit to fight. You should know that by now." He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "You're my rock, Freya. I don't say it enough, but I couldn't have done this without you." Her heart fluttered, but she kept her tone light. "You're getting soft, Benitez. What happened to the Playboy who didn't need anyone?" He chuckled, a sound that warmed her soul. "He met you, and he's never been the same." The words hung between them, a confession that stirred her heart. She stood, her gaze meeting his, the air charged with possibility. "You've changed, Amiel. I see it. But I need to know it's real." He stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers. "Let me show you. Dinner tomorrow night. Just us. No work, no scandals, just you and me." She hesitated, her Harlem instincts warring with her heart. Then she nodded, a smile breaking through. "Okay. But no fancy clubs. I want the real you." The dinner was at a quiet bistro in the village, its candlelit tables a world away from Amiel's old haunts. Freya wore a deep green dress, her curls loose, her presence radiant. Amiel, in a simple sweater and jeans, was a vision of sincerity, his charm stripped of pretense. They talked of everything, her dreams of opening a community center in Harlem, his hopes of rebuilding his father's trust. Freya felt her walls crumble as the night unfolded, her heart opening to the man before her. The lawsuit reached a critical juncture when the activist group demanded a public apology. Freya and Amiel crafted a statement, his voice steady, as he addressed the community at a press conference. Benitez Enterprises is committed to transparency, he said, his eyes scanning the crowd. We've reviewed our protocols and are investing in sustainable practices. I take responsibility for any oversight and am here to make it right. The crowd applauded, and Freya, standing off stage, felt a surge of pride. Amiel was no longer the man in the headlines, he was a leader she could love. After the conference, he pulled her aside, his hand warm on hers. Did I do okay? She smiled, her eyes glistening. You were perfect. The lawsuit was settled, with Benitez Enterprises agreeing to fund a community green initiative. The victory was a testament to their partnership, but Freya's heart was focused on a different battle. One evening, as they walked through Central Park, the snow-dusted paths glowing under lamplight, Amiel stopped, his breath visible in the cold air. He turned to her, his eyes bright with purpose. Freya, he said, his voice trembling. I've spent my life running from things, commitment, responsibility, love. But with you, I want to stay. I want to build something real. He pulled a small box from his pocket, revealing a ring that sparkled like the city. Will you marry me? Her heart stopped her. Harlem's scars fading in the light of his sincerity. Tears welled in her eyes, and she nodded, her voice a whisper. Yes, Amiel. Yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, pulling her into a kiss that felt like a promise, a vow to love, trust, and build a future together. The park seemed to hold its breath, the city a silent witness to their love. Back at the office, the staff buzzed excitedly, whispers of their engagement spreading like wildfire. Amelia, Amiel's mother, hosted a dinner at her Upper West Side apartment, her joy infectious. I knew you were the one for him, Freya, she said, her eyes warm. You've brought out the best in my boy. Daniel, Amiel's father, joined them, and his health was restored. He clasped Freya's hand, his voice soft. You're too good for him, but I'm glad you chose him. As the dinner ended, Freya and Amiel slipped onto the balcony, the city sprawling below. He wrapped his arms around her, his warmth a shield against the cold. I love you, Freya Jane, he said, his voice a vow. I'll spend my life proving it. She leaned into him, her heart full. I love you too, Amiel, and I'm ready for whatever comes next. Their love was a beacon, a testament to the power of change and the beauty of trust. Benitez Enterprises thrived, its future bright under their shared vision. Once a guardian of her own heart, Freya had found a home in Amiel's, a love built on respect and redemption. Have you ever witnessed a transformation born of love and trust? Please share your stories with us on X, and let's celebrate the power of change together. Follow Freya and Amiel's journey and join the conversation about loving fiercely and living authentically.